They humiliated my father in public and laughed at my son, so I tore their whole empire down. What happened next left the entire city speechless. My name is Miguel Reyes. My father, Sergeant Rafael Reyes, 70 now, a retired U.S. Army man who still stands straighter than half the kids in that neighborhood. For 40 years, he ran a small wood shop called Reyes & Son. The shop built the benches in front of the courthouse, the frames in the town theater. It wasn't a business, it was our life. At the grand opening of the new Meridian Plaza, the developers invited him on stage as a token gesture. My father walked up proud, dust on his hands, thinking they were finally honoring small shops like ours. Instead, the lead developer, Alina Crow, cut him off mid-sentence, snickered at his hands, and said into the mic, "This is quaint, but this town needs modernity, not relics." The crowd chuckled. My little boy, watching from the crowd, held his breath. They didn't just insult him, they treated him like a punchline. Then, when I asked about the service roads and access lines that ran across our property, Alina smiled and shrugged. "We bought progress," she said. "Places change?" She thought she owned the story. Here's your first knowledge nugget. When land deeds are written without signed easements, the rights of way, water mains, service roads, fiber don't automatically belong to newcomers. Title records, surveys, and historic parcel maps matter. They aren't glamorous, but they are power. So I pulled our old surveys, dusted off the county records, and traced every utility and road that cut across our lot. The lines on paper told a different story than the glossy brochure. Those fountains, those delivery routes, the plaza's fiber backbone, they crossed land my family never signed away. I didn't need a wrecking ball. I used paperwork and timing. I put up a legal gate on the unrecorded access road we still owned. I filed formal notices with the city and the utilities, not to sabotage, but to demand proof of legal easement. When the utility compliance teams checked the files, there was nothing. No easement, no permits, just a developer's assumption. Within hours, supply trucks started getting turned away. Restaurants ran out of fresh produce. The plaza fountains blinked off during lunch. The Wi-Fi died in the offices. The glittering celebration became chaos. Alina Crow stormed to our porch, furious, shouting, "You can't do this. You don't have the right." I handed her a stack of deeds and maps. I told her, "Cool as winter, you built on borrowed paper. You can sue us. I've already sued you for defamation for humiliating my father. I've filed zoning complaints. I leaked the records to the local paper." Here's your second nugget. Developers hate publicity. Permitting violations and civil suits attract inspectors, halt leases, and freeze financing. When the press smells trouble, investors call for audits. Money dries up fast. Within days, the plaza's contractors quit, lenders froze accounts, and lawyers circled like vultures. Tenants demanded refunds. Board members called emergency meetings. Lena offered cash, offers to restore my father's reputation, even a seat on the board. She begged. She begged for a price. I set one number. Monthly fees for every truck that crossed our land, every gallon of water, every foot of cable, effectively turning the plaza into a tenant on our soil. Their empire went from landlord to renter overnight. By the end of the week, the headlines read, "Meridian Plaza on legal brink." The developers cut a check to buy clear easements and settle the claims. It wasn't charity. It was the price of disrespect. When the lawyers handed my father the apology letter, and Alina looked down at the crowd, all I could see was the same stunned silence I'd seen when they laughed at him on stage. My father put his hand on my shoulder and said, quietly, "You did right, hee-ho." I touched the old shop door where his name still hung, crooked, and smiled. Humiliate a man's family in public, and his son might just remind you who built the foundations you stand on. If you want more stories where arrogance meets its match, like, subscribe, and tell me, what would you have done? Would you shut it down, or let them keep walking on your land?